Today I want to talk about obstacles. In running, as well as in life in general, there are often obstacles we encounter to slow us down, to stop us, to make it difficult to achieve the goals that we're after. And one of my favorite ways of dealing with that, one of my favorite philosophies in dealing with that comes from the philosopher king Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action becomes the action. The obstacle is the way. The idea is not only do you take this obstacle, this weakness that is stopping you, and not only do you address it and grow and improve through it, but after a while, this weakness becomes a strength. And it becomes a way of growing and succeeding in towards whatever goals you have. This applies to running specifically in many ways. One of them being an entry point that a lot of new runners have trouble with. They hear about this running group and, hey, I'd love to go run with this running group. But it's like, including myself, whenever I first started running, you get into this mindset that there's this kind of prerequisite, like I have to be able to run this fast or this far or both before I'm allowed in the running group. And it's not true. There's no like requirements for running. Whenever I started running for the first time, I heard about this group who every Saturday they run 10 miles. And I thought that I would have to be able to run consistently 10 miles before they let me in, before I was accepted. And then I finally built up to that and I joined the running group. And then all of a sudden, there's this dude who's running 5 miles today. There's this lady who's just going to walk for a couple of miles. There's this lady who sprints the whole way, but she's super nice and she ran with me like the first mile. There's a mofo on a bike. It turns out that there was no requirement. This was all just in my head. And that's something to remember with all runners. Every runner, including myself, remembers those first days. And we know that anxiety and, that feeling of trepidation in joining a group. And we're super supportive for new runners. So it's something to kind of consider if you're like, I really like to join this running group, but I don't think I can. You totally can. There's no distance requirement. There's no speed requirement. And also this obstacle will become your advantage in the fact that you're new. You're a blank slate. You take this excitement for this new sport and ask questions, discover and learn, because I promise you the older, more experienced runners are super supportive. They always are. They're super supportive. They will answer these questions. They will encourage you. You'll probably get way more support than you'll ever get ever again in this sport, just because we want you to drink the Kool-Aid. We want you to get excited and really push beyond what you think you can accomplish. So there is no obstacle for that one. It becomes the way in joining and learning and growing. Be that open book. It's the same with the weather. We're in southern Louisiana. The weather's not great for outdoor sport. We have like 10 days a year where it's nice for an outdoor sport. The rest of the time, it's raining. It's cold with a crazy amount of humidity, which makes it feel colder. It's hot. Especially it's hot. Especially it's humid and hot. And this seems like an obstacle to stop you from running. It's raining. I don't want to run in the rain. Well, yeah, okay, running in the rain is not as good as you'd think it would be, but on the other hand, what if you show up on race day and it's raining? What are you going to do? If you've run in the rain before, then you know what to do. If you've practiced running in the rain, like for me personally, I wear a hat. It keeps the rain out of my eyes. And once the rain's out of my eyes, it's really not that bad. In fact, in the summer, it's pleasant because the temperature drops like 10, 20 degrees when it's raining. When you're running on trails and you come to the puddles, there's so many people who try their best to run around the puddle and they end up like half in the woods trying to get around this puddle. No, no, no. Embrace your inner child. Just splash right into that puddle. A, you'll save yourself a lot of energy and time. And B, come on, it's fun. It's fun to just jump in the water, splash around, embrace that inner child, and jump in there. Get your feet wet, get your feet muddy, get used to running with wet feet, get used to running just covered in mud. It's a lot more fun. It'll save you a lot of time and energy, and it'll make you kind of a little more of a badass runner. So, same with the heat. I consider the heat in southern Louisiana one of the bigger advantages than anywhere else, except for maybe training at altitude. First off, talking about altitude, I've run very successfully at altitude places like Colorado because, and here's my theory, and it's just me making stuff up, but still I think it's true. If you run and train in southern Louisiana in the summer, you can't breathe. It's too hot. It's too humid. You cannot catch your breath. So if you run here, you can't breathe here. You can't breathe at altitude. Either way, it's about the same. I've trained in the dead of summer here, and my brain and my body's just so used to struggling to breathe while I'm running here that when I go up there, I've actually had no trouble at altitude. And I think it's because of the heat and humidity of Louisiana. It's become an advantage. Same with, I've done at least 3 races where people were struggling because it was so hot in the race. And by hot, I mean like 75 degrees. I did a race in Oregon one time where it was 75 degrees and everybody was like dropping like flies because it was so hot. And me, I just got back from Louisiana where it was 95 degrees with 100% humidity. Fly up to Oregon at 75. It's the nicest day I've had in months. I had such a good run where everybody else is dropping. I climbed to the top of a mountain, and at the aid station it was like, let's dump some ice water on you to cool you off. And I'm like, hell no, I'm gonna freeze my butt. It's kind of chilly. I don't need the ice water. And that became such an advantage. I finished in the top, like the top 50. I'm not that fast, but like way better than I thought it would be doing, just because the temperature was so nice for me. And I think that's the advantage. Is I think southern Louisiana makes the toughest runners because we slog through the toughest weather conditions. And then finally, something to recall, the other thing is new runners especially, but some runners in general, especially as we get older, some people just aren't that fast or not that fast anymore. I am not a fast runner, but I'm a consistent runner. So as a result, I use that as an advantage of I don't start a run very, very fast, but I continue to go over time and over distance unless I messed up and I end up, gassing myself out. Sometimes we all start out too fast, but I've used that fact that I'm not very fast as an advantage as opposed to a detriment, in the fact that I read in a book one time that this one guy, he tries to be the Terminator, in fact, of that robot that just keeps coming over and over. The Jason Voorhees of running, where it's just like no matter what, here he comes at the same speed no matter what. And those are the scary runners in a race. I've done that before where it's just like that's the dude who's right on your heels the whole race. He's just waiting for you to gas yourself out. He's the guy where it's just like when you were running and you're pushing hard and you have nothing left and now you gotta walk, that's the guy that's coming right behind you, same speed as always, and passes you right by because did not gas him or herself out on that run. Use that as an advantage. You're not very fast, cool, be consistent. Or flip it around and figure out how to get fast. Speed work, weight training, resistance running up hills. Figure out how to work on speed, and next thing you know, that speed, because you are an open book to that speed, you become a student on how to get faster. Next thing you know, you might become like a speed expert because you're open to learning on how to improve that. Turn your obstacles into advantages. The impediment to action becomes the action. The obstacle becomes the way. Thank you and have a great run today.